Welcome back, good fellas, and we're back with another episode of Ask Tony Tuesday.
If you haven't got a clue, Tony's got the answer for you.
How are you, Tony?
Doing well. Yep.
Great. I have two very cool questions for you today.
Okay.
First one of the day, how do you waterproof a stone sink?
Okay, when we make a sink, we can only do it like a square or rectangle, so we can't do anything radius or round. What we do is we miter everything together, and then we have to use a special waterproof membrane on the whole outside of the sink. I mean, we use it's a two-part epoxy when we miter everything together, and that pretty much makes it pretty waterproof. But just to make sure, because it is a sink, the last thing we want to happen is the sink to leak. We completely waterproof the outside of the sink and this waterproof membrane that no water can get through it. And we check it here. You know, we fill it up with water. We leave it overnight. We see if there's any leaks. We make sure that this thing is not going to leak. So it's like a mesh that goes on top. And then there's like this, again, it's almost like a two-part epoxy that gets covered on there. And it makes it completely waterproof.
I was looking at the stone sink we just did not that long ago. And I saw that, the red mesh underneath, and I'm like, I have no idea what is going on here.
And that's exactly, I mean, we miter, we do a lot of the mitered edges and the waterfall edges. That's what you do to start the sink. But you have to do that extra step to make sure that it's completely waterproof.
Never knew that before.
Yeah, it's important. The last thing I want to do is get a call that, hey, you know, my whole downstairs is flooded because we left the sink running.
Yeah, no, that would not be good.
No.
I've always wondered too. I'm like,
Yeah,
how does the water stay in there?
Yeah. We make sure that it is 100% waterproof.
Second question,
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What steps are taken in fabrication?
Okay, well, once somebody comes in, they select the stone, all that, we template it. So the template would be the first step after a stone is selected. We go to the house, we template it, make sure everything is perfect. We come back, we cut the stone to the template. So the first part would be the cutting part. So the slab goes on the, we have a couple bridge saws. One has a CNC capacity that we can do inside radiuses and sink cutouts and stuff like that. But we cut it then to the template. If the template fit when we did it, then if we cut it to the template, the stone will fit perfectly as well. You know, we have walls that go in and out, you know, concrete walls or stone walls. We scribe it to that wall to get it as close as we can to it, so you don't have these quarter-inch, half-inch gaps in between the wall and stone. So the cutting is the first part. Once we get everything cut, you see, we lay the whole kitchen out on horses, these metal steel horses, and we lay the whole kitchen out exactly the way the kitchen is going to go into the house. A lot of shops don't do that, whether it be that they don't have room to do it, or they just don't, or they'll have one guy work on this piece, one guy works on that piece, one guy works on this piece, and then what happens is if it's not all together, and each guy does it a little bit different, when the installers go to put it in, it's going to be, you know, maybe the edges don't line up properly. Like when we put two pieces together that are going to be seamed, and we put them together here, when you're going across there, it's going to be it's going to be the same all the way through. If you don't do that, sometimes when you go to the end, you start to round that end in just because you're going from stone to nothing, and that corner starts to get rounded off. So by putting everything together, it stays nice and straight.
Okay.
And consistent. So that would be the fabrication end of it. So we have the cutting, it goes on the horses, the steel horses, then it gets edged. So whether it be, you know, a simple polished edge, an eased edge, quarter round, quarter bell, or, you know, if it gets fancier, then we have a special router with different bits, and then we edge it. It's called profiling. So we profile the edge. After that's done, we do the final polishing on the edges, and then we cut the sinks out or whatever. You know, any openings that are going to get cut out, we do that, and then they're put on carts ready to go out for the installers the next day or whenever they're scheduled. So then it gets loaded on a truck and then out it goes. So cutting, profiling, sink cutouts, edge polishing, and then out it goes.
Is there any times that there's like more that has to be done before it can
Oh
go
yeah,
off?
that's a great question. It depends on the stone. Like usually quartz doesn't have to have a lot of different things to it because it has a resin. So there's a little bit of flexibility in quartz because of that resin. Stone that has a lot of movement and variation, you know, the rainforest green, a lot of the different exotics that we have these big lightning bolt type veining. Or if a stone has a lot of mica, then we have to flip the stone over on the saw. We cut a channel with the saw blade, and then we put in there either metal, either steel or fiberglass rotting. And what that does is just strengthens it and makes sure that everything stays together. More for us. Once it's in the house, it's not going to go anywhere. But for us to make sure that it stays together, it doesn't break, adds more strength, that would be an additional thing. Or even on the edges. If the stone, again, has a lot of mica in it, and then sometimes we have to glue it because as you profile, sometimes the pieces start to flake off a little bit. So you have to fix those. So you get a nice, smooth, polished edge.
Yeah, I know the guys always hate that.
Yeah, they do. And that's why, you know, something like I always say, you know, when we do levels of stone, it's not just the cost of the material, it's the workability of material. Material that you have to do all that extra rotting and gluing, it adds to the cost because now there's much more labor involved.
Right.
So that's why.
So it depends on the stone.
It always depends on the stone, yeah.
How much goes into fabrication.
Like Eddie, you know, our main cutter out there, he'll say, "Oh, this stone is crazy. This stone is crazy." and what he says is when this stone is crazy, it requires a lot of this extra work.
Those are all the questions I have for you today.
That was easy.
It was an easy day.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering our questions as always.
My pleasure.
Thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode. We will be back next week with another episode, and we hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. See you later.